Thank you so much. Okay, good afternoon. Let's go ahead and begin the meeting. I call this meeting to order. Hope everyone is doing well. A few ground rules. So in Zoom, I'm sure most of you are already experts, but be sure to mute your mic and also raise your hand to be recognized if you want to speak. I think we've fixed the technology issues so that you can both raise your hand and unmute your mic and also turn on your video. A reminder, the sign-in sheet, go.uncg.edu/Senate meeting. I want to begin by thanking all of you again for all that you've done, endured, and accomplished on behalf of UNCG, our students, the staff, and also your colleagues. So many heroic stories to be told, very inspiring. So I want to thank all of our Senate committees for their hard work this year. There's way too many people to thank, but we will be sending thank you letters out to all of the Senate committee chairs, and I do encourage all Senate committee chairs to do the same thing for their members. Their committee annual reports are available in Enclosure A in your agenda packet. So when you get a chance, please take a look at that. They all have been very active. And we also have all of the Senate meetings and forums scheduled for next year. So we will be sending you invites, but feel free to download that and add those to your calendar. All right, and then as a special thank you to all of you, I put together a quick video, a year in review.
Too long, don't go to bed. I'll make a cup of coffee for your head. I'll get you up and down, out of bed. Don't stay awake for too long, don't go to bed. I'll make a cup of coffee for your head. I'll get you up and going, out of bed. Don't stay awake for too long, don't go to bed. I'll make a cup of coffee for your head. I'll get you up and going, out of bed. Don't stay awake for too long, don't go to bed. I'll make a cup of coffee for your head. I'll get you up and going, out of bed. Don't stay awake for too long, don't go to bed. I'll make a cup of coffee for your head. I'll get
Falling too fast to prepare for this. Tripping in the world could be dangerous. Everybody circling as vultures. Negative, nepotist. Everybody waiting for the fall of man. Everybody praying for the end of times. Everybody hoping they could be the one. I was born to run, I was born for this. Whip, run me like a racehorse. Pull me like a ripcord. Break me down and build me up. I wanna be the slip. Word upon your lip. Rather that you rip. Break me down and build me up. Whatever it takes. Instead of fear of being typical, looking at my body feeling miserable, always hanging on to the visual, I wanna be invisible, looking at my years like a martyrdom, everybody needs to be a part of them, never be enough, I'm the prodigal son, I was born to run, I was born for this. Whip, run me like a racehorse, pull me like a ripcord, break me down and build me up, I wanna be the slip, word upon your lip, rather that you rip, break me down and build me up, whatever it takes. slowly get just a goal. Don't wanna be the parenthetical, hypothetical, working onto something that I'm proud of. Out of the box and epoxy to the world and the vision we've lost. I'm an apostrophe. I'm just a symbol to remind you that there's more to see. I'm just a product of the system of catastrophe, and yet a masterpiece, and yet I'm half diseased. And when I am deceased, at least I go down to the grave and die happily, and leave the body of my soul to be a part of me. I do what it takes, whatever it takes.
I hope you enjoyed that. Again, want to thank everyone for all of your hard work. It seems so odd to not be in the same room with you, but I guess fitting to our last Senate meeting is in Zoom, of course. So, all right, next, Brad, approval of the minutes.
So the minutes from last month's meeting were distributed. Are there any corrections or updates that need to be made to those minutes?
All right, hearing no revisions, do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Do we have a second? Great. We're going to give this a shot. Can you raise your hands for all in favor to approve the minutes? We'll give that a try. Well, your virtual hand, if possible. Yeah. Are there any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you so much. Okay, now Frank, are you with us?
Yes, sure am.
Okay, great. Frank Gilliam, our Chancellor. Go ahead, Frank.
Thanks, Anthony, and thank all of you for being on the call here today. Certainly appreciate it. First, let me extend my thanks to you for the important work that you've done over the last several weeks. I know it's been difficult. I started thinking, mine, whatever, 25 plus years in the classroom, could I've gotten a course up online in 5 or 6 days, and it would have been tough. So I really appreciate what you all have done and admire the way you've responded. And I know it's been for many of you, trying circumstances with children out of school, other kinds of family responsibilities. And on top of it, trying to keep your research alive and teach in a new online environment. So thank you, and I just wanted to extend my appreciation. Thank you, Anthony, for your leadership this year as well, as we've kept the Senate engaged and involved. I also want to thank all the Senate folks and faculty generally who participated in our recruitment process for various positions. I read all the survey responses, and your comments were quite helpful in our thinking, and so I really want to tell you I appreciate that. Let me get into the thing that I'm sure most of you are interested in, and that is COVID-19 related issues. As you know, we covered several of them in our last town hall, and we've been trying our best to send out regular communications as we have any news of interest. Let me lay out a few things we're doing that are currently underway. The CARES Act funding. As you know, the university got $18.6 million. 9.3 goes to student aid, 9.3 goes to reimburse expenses of COVID and lost revenue. I'll just say the 9.3 that goes to expenses is against a deficit there on the order of 22 to 23 million dollars. So we're still a bit in the hole there. With the CARES money, which is we're now able to draw down. On the student aid side, the provost and the new vice chancellor for enrollment management, Tina McIntyre, have been leading a process, and Dana has sort of passed the baton to Tina, and they're working on a process now for emergency grants for students, and we expect to have money out. Hopefully, 2 or 3 weeks, Dana, we expect to start to get the first, I see her nodding, we get the first money out to students. So we're quite excited about that. We also have received a little under $1 million from a fund, federal fund in the CARES Act for minority serving institutions where currently this just became available, it actually just became known to us. So we're now putting through that same process of trying to sort out where the money goes, and certainly we will get a non-trivial portion of it into the hands of students. And so they're working very hard on trying to figure out the right strategic allocation of qualifications for the students to get funds, including being able to clean up outstanding balances, having block grants in amounts bigger than outstanding balances, because we know most students are generally in vulnerable conditions. A week or two ago, I spoke to all of the Guilford County legislative delegations to make our case and the system's case for support, and we will need state support to offset just the costs and expenses and lost revenues we've experienced already. So this past Saturday, the General Assembly passed a COVID response package of $1.6 billion, of which $44.4 million is allocated to the UNC system. We do not know yet how they will allocate those funds across the 17 institutions, but we will get some part of it. I suspect, this is just a pure guesstimate, somewhere between $2 and $3 million. And again, that can help us with our $24 million loss of revenue and expenses. The General Assembly will be coming back in May 18th, and there is talk of another round of COVID-related funding. So we will see where that leaves us. Those issues are still a bit up in the air, but at least the main thing we're trying to do is get some money in the hands of students. We're also working on being of service to the community. As you may have seen if you've been around campus at all, the Oakland parking deck is currently being used for testing by the county and Cone Health. Testing obviously is going to be critical for all of us going forward. And so this pilot run, if you will, by the county and Cone Health is important and sets up possibilities for the fall. And I've got a lot of remarks here, so let me try to be somewhat concise. Let me talk about the issue you probably are all wondering about the most, and that is the fall. The system office has directed the campuses to engage in serious planning around opening face-to-face instruction in the fall. We do so with the first principle of protecting our students, staff, and faculty. In other words, we see public health as the key criteria. So we have a planning group led by Julia Jackson Newsom and involving most of the top administrators and others to try to figure out how we might open in the fall. And the system office has, again, I want to be more precise here, read it. The system office has issued some guidelines for how we might open in the fall, and at least laid out categories of considerations that we must take into account going into the fall. One is the start date. They've given the institutions flexibility with the start date. As you may have seen, Charlotte has already said that they will start 2 weeks later. Their goal, of course, is to see if they can somehow miss the expected surge or second wave, if you will. Other schools like Chapel Hill is talking about moving the calendar up 2 weeks for the same reason. And to me, it just tells you nobody really knows when the second wave will hit, and therefore trying to game it is difficult. And moving the academic calendar around, while doable, isn't ideal. So we have yet to make a decision on that, but right now we're sort of sticking to our published opening date. The system has also issued guidelines for health and safety standards. What's been interesting to me is they encourage social distancing in the classrooms, and they want to limit gatherings to 10. They want to limit gatherings. They want to encourage social distancing in dining halls and the like. But they have indicated that double occupancy of residence halls will be permissible. I find it interesting because if you're going to not have social distancing in the residence halls, then why are you going to have it in the classrooms? And in fact, in many classrooms, it may be easier for the professor to social distance from the students than anything else. And many of us are in the vulnerable population age group, and some of us are approaching it. And we're all more vulnerable than are the students for most of our student body, that is of 18 to 25 or whatever you want to consider. So I don't know how that'll work out. Our biggest concern right now is testing. And you've probably been reading news reports from around the country. We just passed around one this morning from UC San Diego. Well, they have an academic medical center, and they have advanced biomedicine labs. And so they're able to do a lot of their stuff on site. And some of the schools you've been hearing about have that. We still have to figure out how we're going to test and how we would test how we would test students in an ongoing fashion. Where would we ensure that the supply chain for PPE is in place? My understanding is that masks are fairly easy to get, and doing the swabbing is relatively easy. It's the lab testing and turnaround time, lab testing capacity, and therefore turnaround time. That is the question here locally. So we're in discussions with the Cone Health and the county health agency. I'll tell you what I would like to see, whether it comes to fruition or not. I don't know how you can have 50,000 college students in the city and not figure out some comprehensive way to test them. And I don't know how we could have tests and Guilford couldn't, or A&T could have tests and we couldn't. It just seems to me that we need a more comprehensive plan. I've reached out to some of the leadership. And I'm reaching out to leadership of all the institutions, as well as the CEO of Cone and the Public Health Agency, to see if there is a way to do something in a more comprehensive way. But testing and contact tracing are obviously the two critical pieces of this. And we're hustling now to develop our capacity to do that. So we'll see where in the end we come down on social distancing. Dana and her team have been looking at what we would do in the classrooms, what kind of classroom space we would need to social distance, what additional sections would we need to have taught if you can't have a regular capacity. Generating the funds to pay any additional teaching that must occur. Then there's a whole host of legal issues. There's privacy issues. More importantly, perhaps, there is liability issues. So one school of thought is no matter how much testing you do, no matter how much social distancing you encourage, young people are going to be young people, and there will be some outbreak. And then why? Then are we then liable because the student says we didn't protect them? Well, there's no way we can, with a great deal of certainty, protect them. We have to ensure that we make good faith efforts to protect the entire university community. The guidelines also have make reference to quarantining, the quarantine capability, that is being able to have a place and to essentially create an isolated ward or isolation ward for students who have been diagnosed positively. We need to ramp up the student health centers. And there we're looking at a range of options. We need PPE and cleaning and disinfecting agents for staff who will have to have some continuous cleaning of classrooms, dormitories, eateries, go down the line. It's possible that we'll have to have, it's probably likely, some hybrid forms of offering classes. I don't know if you saw the letter from Mitch Daniels, the president of Purdue, where he said he was going to have all the students under 35 on campus and those over 35 take courses online. Not quite sure, or any but students at risk with compromised immune systems. I'm not quite sure how that'll work. A series of HR questions that will come up, and we need multiple tools that are flexible to manage the workforce and to manage what are sure to be budget challenges. And then there's a series of other things: athletics, enrollment, lab, schools, master planning, and then go down the list. So they've offered a set of guidelines for us. Let me move on to a somewhat, and I guess I'll take questions at the end, Anthony. I assume I can't see you. There you are up there.
Sure,
Correct?
that's fine.
Yeah, and I'll be briefing that. There will be commencement, or this is commencement week. We have nearly 3,000 students graduating. We're doing our best to be creative with virtual celebrations. I know at the department and school level, you all are doing things. I will just note a few things that we are doing. In the Greensboro, Raleigh, and Charlotte newspapers, there'll be 2-page spreads listing all of the graduates' names. Friday, we've gone old school, and we're having an airplane with banners fly above Greensboro, Charlotte, and Raleigh, commemorating the graduation. And so we've got a little social media campaign for the students to stand out and shoot a picture of the banner flying above them and put it on social media. We're trying our best to think of creative ways to acknowledge the achievements of the students. And I know, again, at the department and school level, you all are doing many things as well. Appreciate that. Let me close by talking about summer. We're all online, and there's some issues around there that we need to address. but we think we're going to be able to address them. We are, I don't know if lucky is the right word, but fortunate that most of our summer classes were already online. Dana, what's the percentage? 80%, something like that?
More like 90%.
Well, 90% of our classes are online anyway, so we're better positioned than a lot of schools in the system. Let me end by saying this. In terms of our thinking, I think this is an opportunity for us to think a little bit differently about the future. I think a lot of institutions are thinking about how do we return to the status quo of the pre-COVID world. And that's one way to look at it. I think a way we ought to look at it is, what changes will we make in the post-COVID world, and what changes will we make for the better for the institution? And think about, not about how do we get back to the status quo, but how do we essentially gain strokes on the field, if you will? How do we sort of leapfrog some folks? And I think we have opportunity to do that if we think about this in creative and innovative ways. So I encourage all of you to think creatively, to think differently about how we're going to offer, administer, manage this enterprise going forward, and just think about what a post-COVID world is going to look like. After every major cataclysmic event in the society, something has changed, and it's become then normalized. So we have to see if we can do some anticipating of that in a way that will benefit the institution. So Anthony, I'll stop there, and I've seen on the chat a bunch of questions have come up. I don't know if you want to moderate them or.
Sure. Well, why don't we start with Moses? So his question is about large face-to-face classes. What are your thoughts on, I guess, reducing class size in fall 2020?
Well, if we follow the system guidelines, we'll have to reduce class size. And that means opening up more sections. Is my point of opening up more sections and getting more help on the instructional side. And so the provost has been, I see her smiling, she has been working quite diligently on that project. So we recognize that if they require us to use social distancing principles, it's going to mean altering the way we offer the classes. Another thing we may have to do is alter where we give the classes. So we may have to use the auditorium or Kaplan Center or the EUC or, gosh, we only know where, but we have to think creatively about following those guidelines.
Great. Do you have time for one more question, Frank?
I have the time for as many as you want, kind of.
Okay.
Not really, actually. I've got an interview I'm going to do in a few minutes. But.
So the next question is, Chancellor Gilliam, you said you have a planning committee. How are faculty participating with that committee?
They are. And Julia, I saw you were on the call. Are you still on? She can give you a more specific answer if she is on. There you are. You want to say something about faculty input into the planning process?
Sure, I'm happy to. And actually, Dana probably can speak more to that on the academic side of things. We are still in the process of trying to figure out some of the really basic pieces of this from more of a operations and technical standpoint, and just now starting to try to roll in conversations with other folks as well. So for instance, I'm leaving this to go to a conversation around ramping research back up, and there are a lot of faculty members engaged in that conversation. We will also start to pull some faculty into some planning teams on some specific issues that we want to harness your expertise on as we start to plan for the fall. So more to come on that, and I suspect Dana has more to say related to that on the academic side as well.
Thank you, Julia.
Dana, do
Frank,
you
you-
want to say something about that? I see you've written something about it. Do you want to say any more about that?
If I might, I'll just reserve the answer to my remarks as I have some things I was planning to
fine.
share along those lines. Thank you.
And Frank, I see you're being called to another meeting, so I
Yeah.
want to express my gratitude for your leadership and, more importantly, your accessibility. We really appreciate the time you're giving us and our ability, our ability to ask you questions and talk to you about our concerns. So we really
And
appreciate
I
it.
would just say a couple of other quick things. One of the things that's been a positive byproduct of this has been the virtual town halls. And so I'd like to institute that a little bit more regularly. I think that we've gotten great participation and great questions. And so I'd like to continue that as a way to communicate with folks. Also, we want to make sure we're communicating enough to you. We're trying to do that. We'd rather sort of over communicate than under communicate. So when we have anything that resembles an update on where things stand, we'd like to communicate that to you. So I think, Anthony, if you could get some feedback from the group on our communications and whether we're saying too little, too much, or what that is. And then we will, just a last note, we will have an inclusive process here. We're just starting to figure out what the questions are to ask, let alone who to ask them of. But over the next several weeks, I'd say the rest of this month and probably part of June, we'll be starting to firm up a lot of this for the fall, and certainly there will be faculty input on that. So
Thank you again, Frank, and we really appreciate you leading from the front. So we really thank you for that.
All right, thanks, Anthony.
Okay, next on the agenda is Dana. Go ahead, Provost Dunn.
Thank you very much. I hope your semester is beginning to wind down and that you'll soon be able to take a break and refresh just a bit. I know it's been a very challenging spring. I also hope that you will reflect on all you've done during this most unusual time to make it possible for our students to continue their education. These efforts were nothing short of monumental, and I thank you for this important work. While we are all anticipating a much needed break, fall and what comes next, as we've just been discussing, is top of mind for everyone. We have been working diligently behind the scenes to gather information from our system about the operating parameters within which we must work, and we will soon be communicating with and engaging the campus in navigating the decisions as we move forward. You heard about much of this from Chancellor Gilliam. In a moment, I will drill down on just a few areas of particular focus to the academic community. Unfortunately, the uncertainty will remain great throughout the planning process, and while we will ultimately plan for a specific path forward, everyone will need to realize that as the situation evolves, that could change abruptly, and we must be prepared for that. We have no choice but to work in earnest to provide the best possible educational experience we can in the fall, whatever the constraints may be. It won't be business as usual, and it won't be easy in many cases. But I cannot emphasize enough that this is a temporary situation, and if we navigate it well, we'll be making a major contribution to the stable future of the university. We will likely be called upon to do things during this period that we would ordinarily not entertain, but it will be critical, again, for our future success. I have recently alerted academic administrators that we will have more regularly scheduled meetings through the summer to accomplish the important work. And Anthony, I know, has recently alerted selected faculty senate chairs that from time to time they will be engaged around these issues, offering counsel and guidance. And in fact, they are already mobilizing around one issue, and it has to do with some best practice models for instruction in areas where we must split classes and engage hybrid models. I do want to ask that you and your constituents please stay connected to your email this summer. I know that's ordinarily a big ask, but we can't be business as usual this summer. Things will be changing and there will be important messages. Perhaps course schedules, locations, formats, much is still in play and maybe until the end of May or perhaps even into June. And it will be very important for you to stay connected, and please spread that message to your colleagues. One of the greatest challenges we know is creating the safest possible environment for everyone. And social distancing in the classroom at this point, we expect will be a requirement. We think that by sometime next week, we will have all the guidance we are going to get from system. We do not yet know how specific that will be, but we will, by the end of next week, be taking the guidance we have and operationalizing a plan for this university. Some of the more stringent requirements could actually result in as much as a 50% reduction in enrollment capacity in face-to-face courses. To meet the 6-foot standard, for example, would require such. This is going to be a challenge to handle, and we will work collaboratively to present options and guidelines, and we will manage the process in the academic units because each academic unit is distinct in terms of their pedagogy, their curriculum, their facilities, their needs. So we will have common guidelines and options and support, but we will work as colleges and schools to present the best possible opportunities to our students. We do know that many students prefer face-to-face instruction, particularly our new first-year students. So we need to endeavor to provide as much of that as we safely can, particularly for those for whom technology and technology access is a challenge. I think by the end of next week, you will start to see some written guidelines and options. This will still be in a formative stage. We will be adding to it, but you will begin to see some detail on how we can navigate this. I have just called a meeting with all department heads, some administrative offices like the registrar and our deans next Thursday to have a first detailed discussion with them about the path forward. Just to give you a sense of the range of things that we know will be part of the solution, we will be putting more courses online. Perhaps, and this number at this point is pulled out of thin air, but perhaps as much as 20% of what's currently scheduled for face-to-face will ultimately have to go online. And we'll navigate a careful process of carefully selecting these courses based on what's best for the course, for our students, and of course our faculty's ability to participate. And more on that in a moment. We also know that many of our classes, particularly those that meet in what I'm going to call a more standard lecture format, are going to need to move to some sort of hybrid model. If you can only teach half as many students in a classroom, what we will need to do with many of our classes, and our system colleagues are looking at doing this as well, is move to an alternating day arrangement where if you're a Tuesday, Thursday class, for instance, half the class will be able to attend in person and the other half through Zoom or some other lecture capture format may be engaging at a distance. Some who have more time and ability will design their courses so that there will be a face-to-face component and then a truly engaging online component for the alternate day when students are not meeting. This is going to take faculty on ingenuity and creativity and yes, work. This is going to be much work for all of us. And I can't emphasize enough again that this is an investment in our future and the university's future. And I believe it's incumbent upon us all to do the best that we can to navigate this. We will have very limited resources to launch new sections, and we will think very carefully about where that needs to be done. The resources will be limited because we're entering a very challenging budget period for this temporary period of the COVID phenomenon. New sections will be limited also because there just aren't enough hours in the day, nor are there spaces to have the courses. And we know that our students are not able to navigate a distance to take their courses. Some of the solutions that the Chancellor alluded to are probably not going to be practical because there are state restrictions on how we utilize some of our student fee-funded facilities. So we won't be able to convert the EUC to classrooms and the like absent legislative intervention. And we've been told that that is not likely forthcoming. So it's going to take all of us and our thinking caps and our efforts. And we will do our best. I'm confident that we can do a good job with this. Our advisors too are going to be essential in helping us advise students in such a way that those who are most challenged with online environments will have access to face-to-face. We may need to give special attention to first-year students to ensure that they get a good sampling of face-to-face instruction. And it may well be that some of the more advanced classes and our graduate classes will do more in the technology mediated world. This is all to be resolved. And honestly, we will have much of this decided and nailed down around the end of the month because it will be necessary for us to do so to allow a couple of months of planning to do this additional work. We must also consider, and this is very important, those that are high risk in our population. And here I'm going to focus on faculty, but similar considerations will be in place for our staff and our students. I anticipate that by next week, your deans will be communicating with you, and I have spoken with them about this morning, asking anyone who believes that they should self-identify as high risk and need to teach online and be at a distance to simply give that information without a justification, but simply with the need that this be the case so we can start working with you immediately to try to accommodate with either online instruction or revised workload in whatever ways may be appropriate. Candidly, we have no idea how many faculty are going to find themselves in that circumstance. We'll provide as much information as we can about what the fall environment will be like. We know you can anticipate some social distancing, rigorous cleaning regimens, probably encouraged masks. Whether or not we can require that remains to be seen. But there are some for whom this environment will not be deemed safe. And I pledge that we're going to do everything we can to accommodate individuals, but it's going to be a massive coordination and logistics exercise that we must undertake. Again, I have to emphasize that how we navigate this will have a major impact on our university. Think of what we do now as being a moment in UNCG history and a moment which will be judged by future generations of UNCG graduates and community members. I remember when I first came to the university, I was given the thick volume that's the history of UNCG. Some of you have likely read it. And I was fascinated with the section that talked about how in Faust Hall early on, when the upper floors were residence halls, that there was a tuberculosis outbreak. And that was the time at which they decided students could no longer share beds. I think it's a kind of interesting parallel that this university has navigated difficult times before and done things that at the time may have seemed unprecedented, and perhaps they were. I'm confident that we can do the same. I do want to plead with each of you to be leaders with your colleagues. Urge that all be cooperative, all pledge to do the best they can to assist others, to volunteer where needed. A lot of this extra work, most of this extra work will not be compensated. It will be an investment in your future, our future, and our ability to retain a strong institution. We have to recognize that we're all in this together and there is no magic solution. It's only hard work that will get us through this. I'm very confident that what I have seen of you bodes well for our ability to do this. You know, we'll all have our bad days. And when that happens, when, you know, one of us becomes frustrated, or one of you, shall I say, and someone doesn't behave well, or perhaps is not as generous, we need to be empathetic and remind one another that this will pass. And compared to most, we're very privileged. I know that Anthony is probably disappointed in me for a couple of reasons. One, I may be going on too long, and two, he had actually labeled these remarks as my farewell remarks. I'm not so good with farewells, and there's a lot of work to be done, and I think the time is best spent focusing on that work until my transition and passing the baton to a new provost who will work with you diligently, I know, to navigate this future. I gave brief farewell remarks at the general faculty meeting. There are only so many times that one can say goodbye, and actually I may have as much as a couple of months of hard work ahead. I pledge to you that I will work diligently alongside you to do all that I can to help us navigate this. And I'll conclude simply by saying it's been a privilege and a pleasure to serve as your provost, and I'm not quite done yet. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dana. And you can talk as long as you like. Thank you very much for the update. All right, so moving on. Yes, you have to maximize that. So I did not realize Todd played the guitar, but I found that, sorry, Todd, if you're on, I found that on Facebook, but it's a pretty cool pick. But we have Karen Bull, Todd Sutton, and David Teachout to provide some updates about supporting remote teaching.
Hi all, so thank you. We will be brief and hopefully a welcome support to all of you, because as we have been talking about, there is some uncertainty around fall, but we are here to tell you that we are ready to support you. In a few minutes, Dave will talk about the ways in which we are going to offer that support. And I simply want to articulate to all of you that if you are inclined to prepare for the worst case scenario, if you are just inclined to prepare because it calms you, if you just want to talk through some initial things you're thinking about, please seek Todd, Dave, or I out, or any of your academic ITCs, or anyone that you know who have taught online before. We are all here and ready to support you to help us through this time moving forward. So I think it looks like our screen share is up. I was just the front matter to give Dave time to get ready to pitch what we have in store for you. So thank you.
Okay, I'm going to stay with audio only because I'm getting a little message that I don't have a great connection, and I think we keep the video off, we'll be doing well. Here are a list of the programs and services that we're going to be offering throughout the summer to best support whatever we're facing in the fall. The ADAPT 2020 is really fascinating. It's the first ever fully online but conference style workshop to help you assess your technology needs, plan your course content, that type of thing. And the way this is going to work, we have two populations. We're going to have presenters and attendees. And so you don't have to be a presenter to attend. But if you type in ADAPT 2020 in the search bar on the UNCG main page, the first item that pops up is a link to all the information about this particular event. It's going to take place. It's a 5-day event, June 8th through the 12th. And Monday is, I think at 9 o'clock, is the closing of folks who want to apply to be presenters. So if you have particular skill in online teaching, online learning, and you want to help out your fellow faculty members, please apply to present at that event. And then once we get those applications in, then we're going to open up a way to for attendees to submit their kind of desire to attend us, so we know who's going to be where and what events you want to go to. The rest of these bullets will be items that we're going to send out something after Friday, May 15th, that's going to give you a way to connect to these particular programs and services. We have individual consults with ITCs, UNCG Online, or the UTLC to assist with specific concerns. We have something called the 3-meeting consultation, and that's out of UNCG Online, and that's particularly for folks who have taught online before. And it's 3 meetings that coordinate all of your work to be able to get your course online and move it online. Throughout the summer, we're going to have topical workshops, and that's going to follow the same format that we've done workshops through the workshops.uncg.edu. We have a program that's already up that is the peer assistance for instructors group. And if you go to the Keep Teaching site, you can drill down into that and find the way to just sign into that. So if you have expertise, get yourself in there so you can share that expertise with your fellow instructors, or if you have questions, that's where you post that and you can help each other with that. UNCG system trainings will be offered, and we'll provide links to anything that's coming out at the system level. And finally, UNCG Online has Ready to Teach as an instructional suite of modules. So across all of these offerings, we hope to facilitate your development and get you as ready as possible for whatever we face in the fall. And I think that's about it. I think that's what we have here. So thank you, Anthony.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Karen. Okay, so next, we have to vote on a series of resolutions. So you should have received an email from Brad earlier today, and Brad is going to walk us through the different resolutions. There are some that are new. Most of them are really reflecting policy that you've already seen and voted on. So, but Brad, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you to kind of walk us through the different resolutions.
All right, so we had the first resolution, which was the UNCG Emergency Undergraduate Student Academic Relief Policy for spring 2020 only. And as the document that Anthony shared with you in terms of the voting, we can see that that resolution passed on a vote that was taken from 4-8 to 4-9 by 32 yes, 3 no, for a total of 35 votes. And so what we need to do right now is to have a motion to approve the resolution and vote on the resolution. So Anthony?
Okay, great. So do I have a motion to approve this resolution? And Brad, forgive me, my eyesight is getting worse and worse. Can you read the resolution number?
Yes, this is resolution number FS 0327 2020/1.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion and a second. So Jason asked, why do we need a resolution for an already approved policy? The answer, Jason, is for the record, as well as a rationale for the policy. So the resolution just provides a little more information for the record, obviously for accreditation and other official purposes. So good question. Is there any discussion? Okay, so feel free to bring anything up, but go ahead and vote. And you'll see it in your email. So I appreciate it, Brad, for kind of laying it out. So we're just going to go over it quickly. The magic number is 19. So Cam, if you could pull up the responses for the first resolution, and we'll move on after we've hit the magic number.
Anthony, we have hit 19 responses, all in the affirmative.
Okay, thank you so much, Faculty Senate. Feel free to continue voting. Voting is still open. All right, so the next one, Sir Brad.
This is resolution number FS 0506 2020/2 to grant all full-time probationary term faculty a 1-year extension of their probationary terms. And so, again, this was previously voted on with 24 in the affirmative and 1 maybe or abstention. And so we just now need, again, another resolution, another motion to vote on the resolution.
And for my poor eyesight, if you could read the resolution number again, Brad, appreciate it.
Number FS 0506-2020/2.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. Is there any discussion? And I have one senator who said they did not receive an email. Senators, it is in the packet as well. And Brad or Cam, would you mind dropping the link to the actual document into the chat? So we're going to give you the document that has all the motions and resolutions. Okay, hearing no further discussion, please go ahead and vote. And again, Cam, if you could pull up the response tab.
Anthony, there are 23 votes, all in the affirmative.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, next.
Resolution number 3, which is number FS 0506-2020/3, is to revise the constitution of the general faculty to include former voting members of the general faculty in phased retirement in the listing of voting members of the general faculty.
So this is a new resolution that gives those that are on phased retirement the ability to continue to participate as a full faculty member. Do we have a motion to approve the resolution? Okay, it's been motioned and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, so feel free if anyone has any comments. Otherwise, go ahead and vote. And as always, Steve, appreciate your committee's work on this.
Anthony, we have 22 who have voted in the affirmative.
All right, congratulations. Thank you, Faculty Senate. Thank you, Steve. All right, next.
Resolution number FS 0506-2020/4 is to approve the UNCG Emergency Shared Governance Policy.
Resolution number? Did you already read that?
Yes, FS 0506-2020/4.
Okay, great. And basically that resolution is to grant us emergency shared governance power, which means that we can vote asynchronously and essentially within a 48-hour period. Yes, so good question, Jeremy. So essentially Robert's rules, which we're governed by, requires that we are meeting in the same space and time, or what we would call synchronous interaction. So essentially, without these powers, anytime we would have to vote, we would have to actually meet synchronously to vote. And so given the rapid nature of decisions that we have to make, we felt it would be unwieldy to try to call a meeting of the entire Faculty Senate every time we needed to vote. So this just basically gives us the opportunity within a 48-hour period to vote asynchronously as a Faculty Senate, given that, especially as the Chancellor and the Provost just outlined, there's going to be a lot more decisions that we have to make. And so
Anthony,
as much as I love you guys, I think that we'd all agree that asynchronous may be more efficient given this current situation. Yes, sir, Steve.
that's not this policy. This is the policy that allows the executive committee to act in the stead of the Senate during the summer and during an emergency.
Okay.
So it actually only applies when the campus is under an emergency situation that's been officially called by the chancellor. And in that case, we often have to act on these emergency policies. And we want the Senate to be able to have some sort of input and the provost to be able to get the advice of the Senate. And so this allows the executive committee to act on behalf of the Senate, although it does require that the executive committee report its actions and allow the Senate, full Senate to review them at the first available opportunity.
Okay, thanks for the clarification, Steve.
Yeah, it's the other thing. That's the
Okay. So Moses has a question. Moses, you're on mute. If
I
you're
don't have a question. I'm sorry.
okay, no problem. And you have my commitment to the faculty senate that while we're under emergency shared governance status, you will be asked to vote on everything that the executive committee has to make a decision on. With that being said, there may be a time, as Steve said, where we will not even have the time to do that. So I appreciate your support, giving us the autonomy to do that, recognizing that our current administration is extremely works very closely with us. So we are I think in a very good situation. Okay, so the motion has been motioned and second. So again, discussion can continue, but asynchronously, synchronously go ahead and vote. And again, we can continue having this conversation if needed.
Anthony, 19 have voted in the affirmative.
Okay, great. The motion carries. Thank you so much to all of you. Okay, next.
Resolution number FS 0506-2020/5 is the resolution to approve the Article 3 amendment to revise the description of the EDI of the Constitution.
Great. Steve or Melanie, any comments about this one? Steve, I'm sorry, you're on mute.
Is Melanie here?
Melanie?
Well, if not, this has gone through several revisions this year. It's been approved by the EDI committee itself. The main thing it does is allow this committee to appoint 2 additional members so that it can ensure that it has a wide enough diversity within its own ranks rather than relying entirely upon the elections. And the other thing is that it slightly revises the description of what it is that the committee does. The committee felt that the current description doesn't adequately describe their actual work.
Okay, excellent. Do we have a motion to
I'm here,
yes,
but
go.
I don't think there's any questions, hopefully.
Let's see. Jason asks, it seems that this change expands the powers of the committee, such as dealing with training sessions, etc.
It does expand it slightly, but it basically describes what they were already doing, as I understand it. I'm not on this committee, so.
Melanie, is that a fair statement?
Yes, Steve captured it, I think.
Jason, does that answer your question? Is there any other further discussion? Okay, do we have a motion to accept the resolution? I need a motion to accept the resolution. Okay, do we have a second? Great. All right, so go ahead and please vote.
Anthony, we have 19 who have voted in the affirmative.
Great, motion passes. Thank you very much. Okay, and I think one more. Okay.
This is this is the, we need a formal, affirmative and formal vote under the emergency status for extending the spring 2020 undergraduate academic relief policy to summer 2020. And so
That's
this
an
was
action.
already, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was to say this has actually been approved. So the parliamentarian and Steve corrected me that it was already approved under the emergency shared governance policy. So we do not need a resolution to approve this. Is that correct, Madam Parliamentarian, Sir Chair of the Government Committee?
As far as I'm concerned.
Yes. Saw my thumbs up.
There
All
you
right.
are.
There we go. So good. We're good there. So actually, there's no further action that needs to be taken at this time. So thank you so much, Faculty Senate. Good job. Yay. Thank you for working so hard and being so responsive. Okay, so next. So the Student Government Association, so I invited the new president of the Student Government Association to introduce himself and his platform. Austin, are you with us? Is Austin Moore with us? Is Christopher with us?
Hi, yes. Can you hear me?
Great. Yes,
Austin should be joining soon, but just to introduce myself, thank you guys for inviting us here. My name is Christopher Buzane. I'm the Secretary for Academic Affairs this upcoming session in SGA. I know me and Austin are very excited to work with all of you guys, and we hope we can have a good relationship with everybody so we can get real stuff done for students and to hopefully better impact the student body here at UNCG.
Great, thanks, Chris. Why don't you just text me or instant message me when Austin comes, and we can recognize him from the floor. But thank you so much for joining us, Chris. We look forward to working with you. You'll find that as a Faculty Senate, we care deeply about students, and most importantly, we want to hear what your issues are so that we can address them appropriately. So we look forward to working with you and Austin. And again, you'll find that we very much want to help students and improve on anything that you identify that we need to work on. So.
Of course, thank you. We also put together a list of things that I believe you mentioned in your email to outline the vision or any issues or concerns we saw that you would like us to bring forward.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Can I share my screen? Is that possible?
If you could send the link to
you?
To Cam Roberts.
Cam Roberts.
Or if you just want to put it in the chat box, Cam can open it up for you.
Okay, sounds good.
Sorry, we're still kind of new to Zoom.
Oh, it's okay. We all are, it looks like.
And just for everyone, while we're waiting, that it's a good practice to have one person control the computer, because what happens if you try to share screens from across different participants, there's way too much waiting, because there's always tech issues. So it's always good to have somebody kind of overseeing the slides.
Are you able to open that link in the chat?
Cam, how does that look for you?
I sent you a request for access, so you'll need to approve that so I can.
Okay.
And we're not intending the role model tech difficulties, but apparently every meeting we have the opportunity to do that.
I think you should have access now. Hopefully it worked.
Excellent.
Okay, I think Austin, are you here now?
Hey.
Hey, Austin, how are you? Thanks for joining us.
Good, how are you?
We're doing good. Go ahead, you have the floor.
I appreciate it. So my name is Austin Moore. I was recently elected as the Student Government Association president. I serve along with Vice President Ali Hamdoun, and we run on a platform of service, educate, and experience. Whenever we ran, this was prior to COVID-19, so just like everyone else, we're constantly trying to learn with the changing dynamics with this pandemic. We definitely want to strive to do more in the 98th session and work with our administrators a lot more than previous sessions. We would like to develop stronger relationships with administrators to make sure that we are able to help students and express the concerns that many of them have, along with the faculty senate, to make sure that we can effectively tackle the issues that students are facing. I know that Chris has already joined, and y'all have discussed a little bit, but if Chris would like to introduce himself.
I did that before you joined, but I can go ahead and start talking about this little presentation we have. Right there, we just have our vision outlining our goals for student government this year. We're hoping to expand community service within the UNCG University community and Greensboro community. We're hoping to educate students on university policy, any changes that come from the faculty senate. We hope to relay that information accurately to students so there's no confusion. And potential job opportunities. We're hoping to increase job opportunities for students this coming year. Possibly mentorship opportunities through student leadership, such as ourselves. But mainly we serve as a liaison between the students and administration and staff, and we advocate on behalf of the students. We distributed a survey between SGA affiliated social media accounts for students to answer and put down their concerns related to COVID-19, any issues they may have had that they wish faculty to know. So maybe this information can be useful for you guys moving forward. First off, the biggest issues that the most common responses we got were mental, academic, and financial stresses. This mainly included sick family members or loss of household income. Many students have mentioned that they're now unable to pay their bills, that they've lost their jobs due to not being deemed essential by the government. And one student did record that they're now having to work 50+ hours since they are now essential workers. So that's been putting a bunch of stress, additional unneeded stress on them academically and physically. There's also been an increase in pre-existing mental health concerns such as anxiety or depression that students have mentioned to us. I think we all feel staying inside, we all feel trapped in a sense. So I think it's understandable, but it just happens. Lack of communication between professors and students, which also coincides with a lack of motivation and focus for these online classes. I think students are having trouble getting the accurate information from their professors regarding their assignments and their exams. And it's causing, again, unneeded stress on both sides of on both parties. Disrupted learning environments. A lot of students have mentioned they have no stable internet connections, or they're unable to participate in their Zoom lectures because of family members in the background that just don't understand the priorities that they have at this moment. And just additional lack of resources that they don't have now that are not on UNCG campus. On this survey, 18 out of the 67 students that answered it said the new satisfactory or unsatisfactory policy would not benefit them, or actually would benefit them. I think this is due to students not understanding the new policy changes. They don't understand if it would actually benefit them. They just know they can do pass fail now, and that doesn't really help them that much. I think this has occurred through a maybe lack of communication. Maybe SGA hasn't been able to communicate effectively what these new changes have been. But any additional help with that would be great. And then just below that are messages for faculty that students have recorded. I can also share the spreadsheet with all the survey data for you guys, so you can go back and read that. But these are just messages that some students mentioned that they would like to let you guys know. Some of them are just outlining these issues that I've already mentioned, and some of these other ones are expressing their thanks for you guys. A lot of students do recognize all the hard work you are all putting in. There's a ton of messages like that on the survey itself, but the ones I put on this specific document just address specific concerns that I've mentioned. But I'll be sure to share that survey spreadsheet with you all. But other than that, if Austin has anything additional he wants to say.
I did have a quick question, Chris.
Yes.
I really appreciate you guys putting this data together, and we'll absolutely share it. So when you're ready, let us know, and I would like to share it with all the faculty. Just let's work closer together on how to better communicate that SU policy to students, right? So like you mentioned, let's figure out together how we can better articulate that. Maybe work with the provost and others to help support the communication, and then working with you to make sure we're putting it in the right spots, using the right technology to get their attention.
Of course. I'll make sure to send you an email with that spreadsheet information, so you can accurately distribute it to everybody. But
Perfect.
again, thank you all for this opportunity to speak with you. I hope this information helps you guys moving forward. Just trying to do our part.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate your leadership. Austin, appreciate your leadership. Austin and I first met by email late in the evening. And I think for same with the senators, it's always extremely appreciative when you're so responsive. So thank you for taking the time to join us. I know in a very anxious time. So appreciate your leadership. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Would it be all right if I just added one quick thing?
Please do. Yes, please do.
So something that I know that I've been talking with our person who's over our social media stuff is that we want to, get information out more readily, via Instagram and Twitter. I was curious if there were maybe information, flyers or some sort, or maybe like documents that we could maybe convert into like flyers and whatnot that we could distribute to students on those platforms. That way we could definitely get that information out, because I know that there's a great example is the tree map for figuring out if you should use SU system. That I haven't seen it anywhere on social media, and I know a lot of our interactions come from there. So I was wondering if that would be all right for us to work on to get it out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we'll work with you on it. I'll talk to the provost about it. And I think it might make sense to also pair you up with some of our strategic communication folks at the university level. So absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you
again. Thank you for having us.
We look forward to work with you. Absolutely. Thank you.
I have a question for you guys. Is it clear to students that they have channels of communication for grievances, especially with respect to professors who aren't communicating with them?
I would say that broadly students know that there is somewhere to go to, but I think the exact where is kind of lost among a lot of students. Whenever we get students who come to us, we usually tell them, dean of students and whatnot, or just, oftentimes reach out to your professors. But I definitely think there's a disconnect for students knowing exactly where that place is for them to go to express their concerns and whatnot.
They can communicate with heads of departments at any time.
Okay, thank you.
Deans of students, yeah. Sure, good luck.
Great. Are there any other questions for our student government officers? All right, well, thanks again, Austin, Chris. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Austin, please follow up with me about your request about the flyers. Let's definitely work together on that.
Will do, absolutely.
Okay, so our next, we have a special presentation from Terry Shelton and Beth Fisher. Terry?
Yes, hi. Thanks for the time on this agenda, and it's really bittersweet to have the opportunity to talk about how we honor Dana and her tenure here. I know that you don't want us to be doing anything, but you're not getting off that easily, and so it was very fitting, I think, that as Anthony began to look for ways, along with the rest of us, to really make a lasting testimony to the work that you've done, Dana, here, that the opportunity to contribute to Faculty First came forward. And I just wanted to briefly remind folks, because they may not know the history of Faculty First. When Dana first came, she came in a time of crisis with some budget cuts that had resulted in the summer research awards being cut in that state budget cut. And as she was laser focused on what she could do to really help not only the students and staff, but faculty, our first meeting, she asked, what could I do that would really help jumpstart, support research, scholarship, and creative activity? And through a number of conversations, we talked about the need to really reinstate that opportunity for that seed funding. And immediately, she figured out a way to do it, named it Faculty First, and then in a stroke of genius, I think, also said, well, let's look at how we can enhance our engagement of our donors in philanthropy and scholarship, which really hadn't been something that was done before. And then as an added bonus, established the Faculty First Luncheon, which was an opportunity to bring our scholars together with our donors and to feature a few of the award winners and moving forward. So it is another way to really highlight the scholarship that was there. The dollar amount certainly has made a difference, and those of you who've been recipients of the Faculty First Awards know what a difference the seed money makes in moving the scholarship forward in so many ways. But more importantly, and I could feel it tangibly, it was a morale booster. And I think it is exemplary of the kind of work, Dana, that you have done and supporting all aspects of the university. But for me, as the Chief Research Officer, this helped in ways that we don't really know yet in terms of all of the impact, the ways in which we have contributed to knowledge creation through the scholarly activities of the faculty. And I think contributing to this fund is a lasting, as I said, testimony to the contributions that you have made. And just, and I'll turn it over to Beth, but on a personal note, I will very much miss my partner in moving forward with this. It has been a real privilege to have somebody who so intimately understands what it takes to move forward research and scholarship in an R2 university, not backing off on the excellence and the expectations that are there, but to do it when we do have our commitment to students and to teaching and that teacher-scholar model. And so I know you have a number of months of work still to do, but I just want to say on behalf of the research community, thank you so much for this. And we are so excited that we can begin to move this forward. And I know that it has enhanced the conversations that Vice Chancellor Fisher has had with the donor community. So I'll turn it over to Beth.
Thanks, Terry. When I got here almost 2 years ago, there was all this conversation about Faculty First. I'm like, well, I don't know what that is. But I want you all to know that our foundation, our UNCG Excellence Foundation, has 50 members who are strong supporters of this. Dana has done a really incredible job communicating with this group about the needs for support for Faculty First, as well as the impact and the results. Every year we have an annual luncheon, and I learn fascinating things. I'm still telling stories from the one last year. And so I am grateful for this fund and the priority. I want you to know that since it was established, we've raised over $300,000 for Faculty First. And in honor of Dana, in just the last couple of weeks, we've raised over $9,000 to support Faculty First. So Dana, thank you for that. And please know that we appreciate you and your emphasis on Faculty First. And our donors are going to continue to respond to that for a long time in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Beth. And as I've told Dana many times, this is for us, not for her. So she didn't want us to do this, but this is a way for us to say thank you and farewell. With that being said, we do have a certificate that we have not mailed to you, but we do have a picture of it that will be mailed to you shortly. Yeah, it's on the right. Yeah, that slide right there.
Yeah.
So one more in the mail package coming. All right. So with that being said, moving on to selecting our new provost. So we have Andrea Hunter, our associate chair and also chair of the provost search committee.
Thank you, Anthony. This is the final update of the provost search committee. Okay, if you go to the next slide, please. Well, we had a very aggressive timeline, which I talked about before, and we completed this under difficult circumstances that no one could have imagined at the start. We just finished the 2 weeks of virtual on-campus interviews, which also included an open house. There were over 100 invitees to the small group meetings. And across the 5 forums, we had between 163 and 193 participants. So thank you all for those who came out. And in terms of final selection, we hope to have an announcement made in the next couple of weeks. And I just wanted to say again that we found so much excitement about us, about the university in this process, about our mission and our values and our students, and our candidates to a person quite enjoyed our visit with us and were further excited about the position, having had a chance to meet with us virtually. Next slide. And I just want to say thanks, many thanks, to all of you who participated in this process. The faculty, the students, administrators, staff. Remember, we had the scoping sessions, the faculty forums, the candidate meetings, the provost open forum. You submitted questions and also the completion of surveys. And I think we had hundreds of questions across the 5 forums. And also to the Faculty Senate leadership, Anthony Chow, who's been great, and obviously a member also of the search committee, and also Brad Johnson for their work in triaging the open forum questions. Not an easy job. And as always, I want to thank the search committee. This was such a great group. It was an enjoyable experience and a really wonderful opportunity to work with colleagues on one of the most important positions that we feel here at the university. Also, my thanks to Isaacson Miller, great partners for us in the search firm, the Office of the Chancellor staff. It took a cast of thousands to keep this going. And I just want to do a special shout out to Christy Crowther and also Cheryl Williamson for this. And also our forever favorite IT people, James Lyon and Kerwin McLean. And YE, the chief of staff who was staffing the committee. And my new back on her t-shirt should be the ever phenomenal. So thank you everyone. Thank you all. Thank you for your patience with the process and just being here, showing up excited for the provost search committee and for the candidates. Thank you.
And thank you, Andrea, for your fearless leadership in all that you've done, and really a great job. So, and we're almost done. All right. So before Andrew, are you with us? Well, under the if Andrew, well, either way.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, wait, actually, yes, one second. So before we have Andrew discuss the budget situation, for all of you that have received a box in the mail, now is the time to open it. After Andrew's update, we'd like to formally recognize you and what's in the box. So, all right, go ahead, Andrew.
I wanted to give you all a quick update over what Chancellor Gilliam said. As he said, we did get $44 million from the last COVID response package out of excuse me, out of Raleigh. We are expecting another round after May 18th. We haven't been told what kind of numbers it will be, but I do know that they're looking at spending another $3.5 billion on top of the 1.6 they just did. So still more money coming in. A lot of us are still working late at night trying to get these numbers up, but just want to let you know that what Chancellor Gilliam said is accurate, and that we expect more. We just don't know how much more. I really don't have much more to give on top of that we will still be playing the waiting game. I'll take any questions.
Andrew, one of the things that we've heard is moving the faculty, or the university and community salaries back into the regular state employee pool. Do you have any updates there as far as that movement?
I do not, and I have not actually heard that myself.
Okay.
As y'all can imagine, this is a rumor mill.
Yeah.
It'll be going around quite a bit. Really, a lot of times you have to wait until you see it in writing to see if it's actually true. But
Right.
I have not heard.
Okay. Andrew, we do have a question from the floor. How do all of these COVID emergency funds affect the normal yearly budget? Dana actually already responded, but yes, if you want to speak to that really quickly.
What they're doing is these COVID response funds are filling gaps in. What Dana said, and Chancellor said, they're filling in holes. That's what the next round is going to be, filling in holes. Remember, this isn't a budget. These are basically filling in holes that are happening. The budget process probably won't start until July. That's when we'll start finding out what kind of shortfalls we're going to have on budgets all around. Late July, August.
Great. Let's see. Another question. I'm thinking more that the money doesn't grow and that one-time funds ought to be affecting the overall pool of money. Jason, I'm not sure if you could maybe restate that question a little more succinctly. I would appreciate that.
Maybe she means this is one-time funds. These are not reoccurring funds.
Right. These are one-time funds.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess maybe he's asking, will that affect the overall pool of money? But I think the answer would be no, right? That these are.
No, these are additional funds from state rainy day funds and the CARES Act.
Okay. And is your sense as far as the rainy day funds that the General Assembly still looks pretty strong?
It's still strong, but I've heard not so much good things about the revenue coming in for the state. It's dropped pretty hard.
Oh, right, because of the economy right now. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So thankfully, we had a strong rainy day fund to fill these gaps, but the rainy day fund is definitely taking a hit. Excuse me, the revenues are taking a hit.
And Andrew, this is a little bit of a tangent, but my understanding is that the search for the president, the UNC system, is a bit on hold. But is that what you're hearing?
It's not on hold. There's a recent article that came out that said they're still doing some of their searches, but they're having to do them via Zoom, kind of like what we're doing. But it's definitely a slow process. They haven't stopped it completely, but they're not going to be done in the time frame they thought they would be.
Right. Okay. Excellent. All right. Well, any other questions for Andrew? Andrew, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to provide your expert advice and opinion and information with us. So thanks for all that you've done this year.
Thank you. And as always, if you got any questions, shoot me an email and I'll answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. All right, so the final, second to final agenda item. So our fond farewells. My Latin is not great, but essentially it means thanks and forever grateful. So I'd like to recognize several people. There are way too many of you to thank in this way, but I wanted to recognize a number of you. So let me start with, of course, Provost Dunn. One of the things we wanted to do is leave all of you and certainly others with something to remember us by, and also a way for you to remember all that you've done for us. So Dana, did you receive your box? Okay, unveil, please. Or do you see it?
Thank you very much, Anthony. This is very special. I will treasure it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And we have many, openings in the Senate committees. So just keep that in mind. Thank you, Dana. All right, next. Now, again, there are some Senate committee chairs that I did not recognize, and it does not mean that you did not do an excellent job as well. But the ones that I'm recognizing in particular are either leaving or they, in some ways, were working with me via COVID-19. So those that we're giving awards to probably meant that you also met with me at some point along the way for some type of emergency. So the next recognition, I'd like to recognize Brad Johnson. So Brad Johnson, our fearless secretary of the Faculty Senate and General Faculty, has done such a great job. Really been very fastidious with all the requirements of his position, and just been a real trooper friend. In the end, we ended well together with all of the provost candidate forums we did together, right? So just want to recognize Brad. Did you get your box?
I did. Thank you. You may not be able to see it because of the glass. Actually, I've been secretary for 4 years, so I started back in 2016.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. Double thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brad. Okay, next. So next would be Chanel James. So Chanel, did you receive your package? Oh, good. Excellent. All right. So Chanel James, a parliamentarian. So having a good parliamentarian means that I have a peace of mind. So between her and Steve, we know that we're following the appropriate policies and regulations, especially Robert's rules. And so thank you so much, Chanel. And the thing about Chanel is she started with Gen Ed. So by the fact that you stuck it out with us all after that is a true testament to your commitment. So thank you, Chanel, for everything.
And we do really well. I've been in some rooms since I started on this journey, and UNCG does really, really well with parliamentary procedures. So thank you.
Well, you know, we've got you an award, so you know I'm coming back for more, but we'll talk about that later. Okay, next. Yeah, sorry, Cam. Cam is doing just a wonderful job. All right, Stephen Yarbrough. So Steve is my man. So Steve and I, we don't always see eye to eye, but Steve will always let you know what he's thinking, and more importantly, he's just incredibly. He's an expert in our Constitution. Also extremely responsive. Whenever we need anything, he's always extremely responsive, and just we couldn't have done near as much this year without you, man. So just wanted to say thank you for all that you've done. And on top of that, Steve, did you want to just talk a little bit about your years in the Senate? Because they can't see your plaque, but we tried to lay out all of the accolades of our yeah.
Something like that. Way too many years, starting in almost constantly from 2003 till this year, in one capacity or another. Senator for 9 years, I think. Parliamentarian for several years, three different chairs, and now chair of the government committee.
Well, we appreciate everything, Steve. We appreciate your expertise, your guidance, and to show that he is a truly committed glutton. He's actually coming back next year in some capacity as well, which we really need, by the way, Steve. So thank you, thank you for for everything.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right, so Lori Kennedy Malone. So Lori is not only just indispensable, but Lori does so many other things. So outside of being my partner in crime for the compensation, in fact, the welfare committee, she also kind of took on the interim chair of the P&T guidelines committee, and she also agreed to serve as our faculty marshal and mace bearer as well. So Lori, I can't thank you enough for your commitment and all of the things that you do for UNCG. A little plaque is not near enough to say thank you, but where are you? There you are.
And I want to say that I thought when I left the chair of the Faculty Senate 10 years ago and cried that that was a great day, but to be recognized for the work this year. This is my 30th year at UNCG, and some of my happiest moments is working with a lot of you. And I look forward to continuing to serve next year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next. Thank you, Lori. Okay, so we're gonna have to expand that. So we don't have time to individually but I wanted to recognize everyone that had such a extraordinarily important role to play this year. So James Lyons, our IT services guru. James, did you get your package?
Yep.
There you are.
Right there. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
And I also have to say that James is expecting his first child coming up soon too. So we'll be losing James for a little bit, but congratulations. So thanks again for everything, James.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Cam Roberts. So Cam is going to be our GA, but he's actually become a full-time GA in the Library and Information Science Department. So this isn't farewell, but Cam Cam is running the show right now. So Cam, we just wanted to recognize you for, again, how critical you are in running a very efficient meeting. So Cam, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you for your kind words.
Yes, and so many milestones happened this year. I just wanted to again point out Cam is engaged, and we were there to hear and see it. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Daniel Smith. So Daniel, of course, is always critical for all of our meetings. Obviously, Zoom has changed a little bit, but I just wanted to recognize Daniel for always being patient with us in terms of the sound and all of the microphones at our regular meetings. And of course, we want to recognize you because we hope to see you next year as we get back to our physical presence. So Daniel, just wanted to say thanks for all that you do. Daniel is on loan from online learning. He's doing it because he has the expertise and his commitment to the Faculty Senate. So Dan, we just wanted to show you how much we appreciate you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Kevin McLean. So Kevin, we really didn't work very closely with Kevin for most of the year, but then Zoom came about. And so Kevin actually was our Zoom guru for, I think, two of our most significant contributions to UNCG, which were the town halls. And so in that, really the staff senate deserves a lot of credit as well. But Kevin kind of shepherded us along. So when we first started with Zoom, nobody knew how to use our mics or anything. And so Kevin, thank you so much for allowing us to communicate. And really, and same with James, you guys just indispensable, and you really allowed us to conduct business at a higher level than we really ever had before.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kevin. Aaron.
Love my plaque.
Oh, excellent. Great. So Aaron, general education. Well, what do we want to say about general education? Again, Aaron, most of you don't see the emails or the phone calls or the meetings and how committed and passionate he is in making sure that what Amy and Jody handed off to him in many ways is done really well. And so Aaron has just done a fantastic job, and we wanted to thank him for that profusely. So Aaron, are you available? So I think Aaron may have been having a slight difficulty, so we'll move on. But Aaron, this is recorded. Thank you for all that you do. Amy Harris Hoke. Well, again, Amy is still, of course, very active in the implementation of our new general education curriculum, and of course, our fearless leader on the task force. So Amy, thank you for sticking with us, and again, true commitment that you went from task force to also implementation, very active in the implementation. So thank you, Amy, for all that you have done.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, and I really appreciate all the support of everyone in the Senate, and especially you, Anthony.
Thank you. Great job. Tammy Drave. So Tammy, I know, is afraid to answer any of my emails because the way it works is Dana and I will talk, and then Tammy gets an email from me. We wanted to thank you so much for being so responsive, and we want to obviously thank your committee for in this emergency status, you guys providing such insight and within very demanding timelines. So Tammy, thank you for your leadership, and of course, thanks for your expertise in managing this. So we're surviving, right?
Yes, we are. Thank you. I've learned a lot, and looking forward to keep being on with this important work, especially right now.
Great. Thank you, Tammy. Norman Chu. So Norman, he and I, of course, worked together on the budget. So it seems like so long ago, Dana, that we talked about the budget situation. But like many things, the situation with the budget was needing immediate attention. And again, appreciate working with Dana and the Chancellor's office in terms of budget priorities. And Norman just came out in spades, very responsive. Still, I'll never forget our breakfast together, Norman, and talking about budget priorities at the same time. But pancakes make it always better to talk about budget cuts, right? So anyway, Norman, did you get your package?
Yes, I did. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, Norman, for everything. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, next slide. Thanks everyone again very much. We wanted to do something special because obviously in the COVID-19 environment as well, it's been extra demanding. So to all senators, we just do not have the funding to thank all of you as much as we would like to. I can't thank all of you for your responsiveness, for your camaraderie, your Google Doc work. And it's really been amazing. As I mentioned to Dana, so I've had the good fortune of being in a lot of teams, including the Marine Corps. And when you go to when you're faced with emergencies, you develop a level of camaraderie and trust through that hard work. And I really feel that with all of you. So I thank you for that. The Faculty Senate coffee mugs actually are to be given to you. So we will figure out how to do that once we can get back to physical normalcy. So some of you already have a mug, but if you do not have a mug, that mug will be coming to you at some, yes, hooray for coffee, exactly, Mike. Of course, that means more work for you, right? So anyway, I wanted to say thanks again to everyone, but there's one final very important presentation, which is Andrea Hunter. So many of you know, when you become the Faculty Senate Chair, it's actually a 4-year commitment. So Andrea has been with us this is the end of her 4th year, obviously former Faculty Senate Chair, Associate Chair. And so I just wanted to give Andrea the floor to say her farewell and gratitude for all that you've done. Did you get your box?
Yes, I have it.
Excellent. Great. So thank you, Andrea. You have the floor.
Thank you so much, Anthony. I recall 4 years ago, it went by a lot more quickly than I thought. I asked Ann Wallace, what does she love most about this role? And she said, it's the people you meet. And definitely that is true. I will be forever enriched by the colleagues I've worked with, the friendships I've made, and the mentoring and support I received. And because of all of this, I know that we will find a way to meet the challenges ahead and remain faithful to our mission and our values and our students, and that we will strengthen our community and we will problem solve and we will innovate with an ethic of care. That is my prayer, and that is my hope for all of us. Thank you so much, and thank you for the opportunity to serve. I have one more thing, but I'm not sure if the time allows, but you remember the Chancellor had Coltrane? Well, we had Earth, Wind, and Fire. Maybe we can play it on the way out, DJ Cam, but Shining Star, and that's all of us and all of you. So
before you play that, I wanted to just real quick slide. So we do have some summer work to do. So as the Provost has mentioned, there are a lot of things that we have to plan for in the fall. So my apologies in advance, but you will be hearing from us. The fall calendar is definitely being discussed right now. Many other things that will be put before you. Again, I guess I will share this moment that I had with Dana, which she basically said she really appreciates how responsive the faculty has been. So obviously she has to make a lot of decisions very quickly, and by us working together and all of you being so responsive, it really is role modeling how shared governance should work. So thank you for that. And of course, that means we will be asking you for more work shortly. And then don't forget the elections. So I'm way behind because of COVID-19. I decided not to have the elections during finals week. So that will be coming out soon. We are actually adding a little multimedia to the nominations for the officers. That will be university-wide for the first time. So we have 2 nominees for Senate Chair-elect and 2 nominees for Secretary. So those will be coming out shortly. So with that being said, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Anthony, can I break in? I know I'm
Please
off
do.
of calendar. I just want to say thank you so much for your leadership during this very difficult time from Gen Ed to COVID. It's been a difficult and challenging year, and you've done so with such grace and caring for the faculty and the university community, and we're in great hands going forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And thank you very much for everyone. You know, I know somebody said when I first started, don't F it up. Well, I think collectively we have avoided that. So thank you very much for all that you've done. Motion to adjourn. All right. So take us home, Cam.
You're a shining star, who you are, shining bright to see what you can truly be. You're a shining star, no matter who you are, shining bright to see what you can truly be. You're a shining star, no matter who you are, shining bright to see what you can truly be. Shining star for you to see what your life can truly be. Shining star for you to see what your life can truly be. Shining star for you to see what your life can truly be.
Take care, everybody. Thank you. Thanks again.
Thanks, Anthony.